All right, thank you.
Many class reunions have been held here. So at this time now we're going to have John Jernigan do his presentation about historic gas stations in King City. When he told me about this idea, I thought, who cares about historic gas stations? But obviously people do, and this guy really cares about them because I've seen him be up in the middle of the night searching old newspapers. And in fact, if some of you are not familiar with the California Digital Newspaper Collection, it's a free website out of the University of California at Riverside where you can access 53 years of the King City Wrestler from 1901 to 1954. And you just can search a family name, you can search a subject, you can search a business, and you can find information because the Wrestler did an amazing job of documenting our history. And so John has used that time to put this together, and so we're going to get going because he wants to get through it all, and then we're going to go listen to Jose talk about St. Mark's. And these guys have just done a lot of research, and I think it's pretty fascinating. So John, you want to go ahead and start?
As Karen said, I've done a lot of research. By the way, this is a driveway that you guys are sitting in here, by the way. You know that, right, Rich? There used to be, there used to be Willard Battery behind here, and this was the driveway to get back to it, by the way. Okay, so what I've called this is a gas station on every corner. That was one of the things I've heard many, many times growing up. And this is the Highway 101 service stations. And of course, it's by the King City History Center. So just a little stuff before we start here. So the Model T came out in 1908. A guy named Lyman B. Ulray was believed to have one of the first cars, which was an 1810 EMF that eventually was merged into Studebaker. Passier Auto Tour of California. Some people don't know about that. That was for the Pan-Pacific Exposition. It was one of the first auto tours of California because roads weren't that great. And it came through King City in 1912. And at that time, 101, if you will call it 101, El Camino Real, it wasn't called 101 until 1926, went actually to Halone. And the reason I know that they came through King City is they took a picture on Halone grade of their cars when they were sitting there. They went about 2,000 miles all the way around California. First gas station was about 1915 in Cucamonga. The official 101 route was adopted in 1926. And this is my list that I based on the years from 1920, because that was, I believe, the first year they had a gas station, and 1967 as they started planning going around King City. In the beginning, what you got gas, you had a gas pump that was normally on the side of the street. You can see 2 or 3 pictures here that are taken from King City. There was some on First Street, Broadway. And then pay attention to the one in the upper right, there's a little cart. That is actually still down at the park, at San Lorenzo Park. There it is. It's exactly the same one. And it's inside the Monterey County Agricultural and Wildlife Museum there. So we're going to start on South First Street. This is just about where Gill Onion is at the Lone Oak Crossing. This was owned by many years by the Meyer family. And in fact, the gentleman with the tie is Leo Meyer. And the little child that seems to be wearing a dress, that's Bob Meyer. So, and maybe that's the dress of the day, I'm not sure. But anyway, Leo bought this and remodels it. But this is interesting. It has Texaco associated, and so they have multiple things. That was built in 1931. That's what it looks like today. The Queen Motel, a lot of people know it, was actually not the Queen Motel. It started out as the King Motel, but ran into some issues with other people having King in their name, and so they changed it to Queen. So this is the next one, which is almost right next door. Of course, King City Garden, the Doyle family. They built King City Gardens there, and they built a little Shell station out front so you could sell flowers and gas at the same time. And that was 1932. This is it today. The upper corner is, I took some photographs in 2016, and the building with the little awning there, that is actually the same building that's back there that says King City Gardens on. They turned it into a residence. And remember I said that if you look to the right of the gas station, you'll see kind of a white spire. That is actually the City Hall spire over there that I was talking about. I don't know, let's see, it doesn't, my razor pointer doesn't work on that. Okay, so that's that. And then the B&B, that was a favorite of a lot of people. And of course there's some suspects here. The man on the right was Mr. Nemi, which several of you probably had him as teacher. Next to him is Nick Anastas. The middle guy I don't know, and then Ray Lavelle, and looks like they're shooting some dice here, probably figure out who paid for it. The B&B was a truck stop, and unfortunately I cannot find an exterior picture of it. Today it is Ozzy's Mini Mart, and to the left there is where the lube bay used to be, where you drive over it, and then the parking out there in the back was where the trucks parked. The next one, little obscure station here at the corner of Pearl and First Street. That's a picture of it, and unfortunately that's about the best one. Unfortunately the train was coming by all the time. That was taken in 1970. In 1923 they built an auto camp and then the Sunshine Garage and service station. Today it looks like that, and the building that has those 3 windows in it with the trees behind it is actually the service station that's been stuccoed over. And they took the canopy off, and you really don't even know that that's what it is. But since I grew up across the street with my dad's business, I know about that. Okay, so now this is on the corner of First and Broadway, and this is an associated station. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the nicest looking stations we had in King City. Built in 1928. After originally there was a motel or a hotel there, Hotel Reach, Railroad Exchange, whatever you want to call it. They moved it to the other corner to Bassett Street, and then they rounded this corner off about 1936, and that gas station is there. And that's what it is today, the Shopette. You just walk by, the Shopette has the mural that you visited on it. So this is El Camino Garage across the street. The only garage that actually had a service station in it. You can see the pumps back there. They were actually islands that you could visit. And you could do that. This is out of the 59 annual. One note, and I think I put it in the notes that I put about gas station. This is the only place you could buy Kingsford charcoal, because Kingsford charcoal was sold by Ford dealerships because it was part of the leftovers from the making the Model Ts and stuff, that they started making charcoal, and eventually it was of course sold in every else places. That's what it is today. It's social services. And that was Will Hamilton's Ford dealership, as in East of Eden. So a favorite of a lot of people is Tony and David Souza, or Tony Soares and David Souza, there we go. They actually took over this station in 1951. The original one that was there was 1923. One of the things that happens a lot is stations changed hands a lot. There was a lot of name changes. The stations were rebuilt numerous times depending on the era. You wanted to look update to the people going by and seeing you. You didn't want to look like an old rundown station. There it is today. It's an empty lot. We just strolled by that. So this is where our tacos came from, La Petraca. There is a station here. This actually came from a gal named Jenna, and she was a web, and she lives in Salinas, and she happened to post this on social media and said, "Is this in King City?" And some people said no, and I said yes it is, because I've been looking for that picture for about 20 years. And that is true. I looked for that picture for a long time. And so there it is today with La Petraca. So this is probably one of the nicest gas stations that we had, a real showpiece here besides the Flying A on the corner. This is standard, rebuilt numerous times. And as you see up there in the corner there, that is a magic lantern glass slide that they used to show at the Real Joy Theater. and that has Mike Ascona on it. So he obviously at one time had it. He also had a restaurant, I believe. There was the Moon Glow restaurant that used to be behind there. That was built in 1920. That's the first gas station. The gas station at La Petronca and this gas station were being built almost exactly at the same time. When you look at the newspaper, it looked like the one at La Petronca was going to win. And then for some peculiar reason, somebody, I don't know who it was, said, well, gee, there should be a firewall there, shouldn't there? And so they had to make a jurisdiction on it. And so consequently, the gas station at La Petronca came in second for being the first official gas station. There it is today, Simoense. So Frank Nunes, who was with us earlier but had to leave, he had this station for a while. It was a mobile, I think, when Frank had it. Originally, it was started by the Smith family. We actually have some descendants of the Smiths over here, which was Carol Sundall's maiden name was Smith. And so she gave me this picture of the Richfield station there in the corner. And then, of course, it was last King City Auto Detail, and I think it was a little tienda for a while before they tore it down. I lost the argument about saving that and turning it into a showpiece, but that's what happens. So, and today, of course, I actually agree now that after this, I saw this done, I would totally agree. So across the street, the Smith brothers were very productive. They opened 3 gas stations that I know of. This is another one they opened, and a couple pictures from annuals. This was the new style. They had these kind of flying saucer things there on the aisles. I'm not sure what that was. But when they built this gas station in 1939, it was a big argument about it because at that time it was going to be either the 15th or 16th gas station in operation in this town. And so there was a big debate about it, and finally the owner won, and they built this gas station, and the Smith brothers ran it. And today it's our library. So another obscure piece here. This is a gas station. It was Associated gas station. It's on the property that is now Wells Fargo, okay? So if you see where that red arrow is, to the right of it, you can see that there's a roof line there. That house originally set directly on Broadway, and they paid to have that house moved to the back, and then they built that Associated gas station in front of it. Then later on, they tore the gas station down, and they moved that house. And today, John and Marianne Matson live in that same house out in Long Valley. So that house was moved about 15 miles maybe out there. I don't know. What type of speed you get on moving a house? That's amazing. And today it's Wells Fargo. So across the street, they were actually working on the awnings the day that Chase. This is out of 1960. 1960 annual, so that must have been a brand new Corvette, because what Corvette came out in 58 or 59, didn't it? And sitting there, I'd love to have that one now. And then the photo on the left-hand side there was taken by Mr. Waters, who actually worked in King City Laundry, and he must have leaned out the window and took that picture of that blimp above that service station. So that's from the whole. And Frank Lillard, he is. His name is on the VFW building. And today it's that. And then this is kind of a little cheesy little gas station. And this is a Norwalk, or Hancock. I think it became a Norwalk also. So in the article, it actually said that when Dee and Lee were opening this, that they were going to throw away the key 24 hours a day, all kinds of good service. So that's right there, and today it's Mechanics Bank. So it looks like gas stations took precedent, or banks took precedent over gas stations. And actually I had a hard time finding this one here. If you know Mountain Mike's Pizza, that's the founder of the Mountain Mike Pizza chain there that's looking toward me. And that's one of the few pictures that I have of that. What was interesting is we came in to talk to, Jim Albanese. He's a real sage with, history. And he was sitting in the bar next door here, and he doesn't drink. So, That's not an excuse. So we asked him about this service station, if he knew anybody that owned the service station or anything about it on the corner of Broadway and San Lorenzo, and he said no. And then we were talking to some other people, and about 20 minutes later, we got back to talking with Jim, and we said, "You sure you don't know anything about that?" And he goes, "Well, hold it." He says, "I opened that gas station." So anyway, so Jim Albanese opened that station, and he said, "I opened it in 1964 and 1965. Unfortunately, we do not have 64 or 65 on digital. We have to go to the library for the microfilm." And I looked through 2 years of Rustlers, reading every page, trying to find anything about this gas station. In December of 1965, 2 years into my look, I found where they were going to open this. So they actually opened it in April of 1966. And then it became, at one time, King City Glass and True Value Hardware. Now it's Ace Hardware. Across the street, the Webbs. He was very involved in a lot of different gas stations. This was their gas station in '63. And of course, it was opened by Nance. I mean, it was Brandstetter. Lots of name changes, quite a bit. Another early gas station, 28. Today, it's actually a gas station, one of the few that still is. So that's Full Stop. That's where Lynn's Liquor, Byron Lynn, bought that property and opened that up. So one of the storied ones at the corner of Mildred and Broadway, and it was open at Weldon Superstation. This station has been an automobile dealership. It's been a laundromat. It's been an antique store. It's been all kinds of stuff. And somebody asked yesterday, and actually put that on the top up there, the Little Corner Cafe opened in 1952. I thought by Miranda's, but it's actually by Mrs. Floyd Rohr. And Rolanda Dadini actually owned this property here. And that's today. It's actually still kind of in the same form, and that's Sun Street Center. Here's another Smith gas station here. That's Roy and Carl Smith and Biana. And that was opened in 1926, another early one. It would eventually become a truck stop until too many complaints about trucks going down Bassett Street, which if you've been down that section of Bassett Street, it's kind of narrow, so I can imagine a lot of trucks going down there. I'm fascinated by the looks like bamboo out of the river they use for ceiling material there. I'm not quite sure what the deal is on that, but check that car to the far left there is a pretty early car there, 1926. And this is the fascinating thing right here. And I did not know this until we did some deep dives. So had the picture to the left of Carl standing in front of this little thing here with fortunate provenance of King City High School behind it. Just a great picture. I didn't even pay attention to it when I first saw it because it didn't show the gas station. But when I did a deep dive, I found out that this sculpture named Finn Frolic, he was from Norway, I think, and there was a movement in the early 20s called art-vertising, okay? And it was kind of loosely based out of the LA basin, and that's where he was. And he was commissioned to build this modern speed little sculpture. And what they did is they took this sculpture and then they cast plaster of Paris models of it and then painted it so it was kind of water resistant. And then stations that were high volume or in this case, very prominent because it was right on Highway 101, they would give them that. And so this is Carl probably proudly, I'm thinking that might be the day it showed up. I don't know. We'll see. All right, maybe someday I can find out. But what's also interesting is there was a lot of advertising now that we kind of take for granted, that has some sort of art in it. And this was the movement that started. Finn, ironically, was also a good friend of a guy named Jack London that a lot of us know as an author. They loved to drink together. But unfortunately, he eventually ended up in Carmel, of all places, and then eventually actually passed away in Salinas. And so that's where he's from, after Norway. And that's it today. Hall Chevron was what we knew it as kids, right directly across from Seton High School. Another kind of obscure place, the Lindy Motor Inn. They had a gas station right in the middle. You can see it kind of there. That's the only picture I've ever found of it. It became the Surrey Motel. One of our participants, I think, is sitting in that Surrey for a photo op at one time. I'm not sure who that is, but I kind of remember that. Anyway, what happened is they tore that gas station down and in the 30s, and they were going to build a 2-story hotel in the middle. But then kind of the Depression and everything hit, and they didn't do it. Then they went back to the Founding Fathers and said, hey, can we put this gas station back? And they said no, because it's too close to the highway and it's causing congestion, which is the original reason that gas stations became independent and were off the street to avoid it. That's it today. And my wife's walking toward me because that may mean I'm... So getting down closer to the end. The Peterson, this is the Gulf Station. It was a Wilshire on Broadway. Had a hard time finding that one too because it was built in the early 60s. Yeah, I know. I'm not sure. So today it's 7-Eleven. So another obscure gas station that was inexistent was right here when the Menzies opened this. It was a bulk plant also, just about where Safeway is now at 834. And you can barely see it. That's the only photograph I can find where that had it. The other red dot up there is where my 2 sisters and I grew up. That's Talbot Street. And those 2 ruts in the middle of the field eventually will be Monte Vista, if you know where that's at. Today it's that. Another interesting little place is the Comfort Court, which is still there. The only photo I had was Sue Raycraft had these lovely people standing next to this car, and they opened that in 1929. And today, the only thing left is this light pole right there. You can see where they have it. And they plastered over the gas station. It used to be right on the end of it there, where the office was. And the last gas station that I'm considering to be in this time frame is the Menzie gas station at the end of town. If you look carefully at on kind of the right side of that photograph past that power pole there, that's the bridge. So you were getting right near the river. The Menzies opened this up. It was also a bulk plant, and eventually this became the Gear Jammer Cafe. Some of us may remember that. And that was a truck stop for many, many years that had moved from the gas station across from the high school because of too many complaints. And so that's it today. Byron Lynn once again opened up a store there for a while, Lynn's too.
What, you say bulk plant, what is a bulk plant?
That's it keeps the large quantities of gas and then distributes it to the smaller stations. Bulk gas, I guess. So King City was bypassed by 101 on August 13th, 1968. And so Broadway is no longer Highway 101, so a gas station on corner is never needed. So it declines. So this is just a little stuff. That's the plaque for the Cucamonga service station. And the one on the left there is kind of great little thing. It says gas stations didn't just sell fuel. They handed out free, beautifully detailed paper road maps that became the trusted guide for every family vacation. And so my question is, we got this old geezer in the driving thing there, and we got these 2 kids, obviously they're strapped in their safety belts, and this young-looking wife. So I'm trying to think what this guy got going for him. But he's got the thing. So thank you very much.